Hello and yes indeed, welcome to another Whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. This is review number 123, part 6 of the series, A Baker's Dozen, part 2. Because this is the second time I've done a Baker's Dozen series. Looking at 13, 12-year-old Scotch single malts. And I said, I think it was at the start of this series, that I can't believe this is review number 123. This is the 123rd whiskey I've reviewed. And I've yet to touch on Glenfiddich 12-year-old. It was just one of those that sort of hid away in the back of the cabinet. I've used it a time or two as a reference. And I just can't believe I didn't actually get around to reviewing it. It's not, I feel, and I'm sure there are those out there who are wondering why it feels like as if I'm going backwards. It's not really. I don't feel like it's going backwards. Remember, there's those who are starting their journey, so I want to pick out in these, and I want to try and hit all the whiskies as I go along and give you my views. Sometimes I'll go backwards, sometimes I'll go forwards, and I just feel like as if it needs, it's Glenfiddich 12-year-old. It's what I would consider a classic. Even the non-initiated know this bottle. They know that triangular William Grant shaped bottle. So, why not talk about it every now and again? 40%, bottle of 40%, chill filtered, colour added. It's out there for the masses. This is matured, and it's quite vague. It's ex-bourbon, ex-sherry. I think there's vatting going on, So, it's simple. Let's keep it like that. Let's put it like that in those terms. It's a relatively simple whiskey, but we'll explain that as we go along, shall we? Let's go. It's quite bright, crispy, crunchy apples. There's a hint of aerosol polish about it. Lemon and lime. Hint of heather, hint of honey. It's that, once again, it's that sort of Speyside-y feel. There's a quite clear note of spearmint, which I hadn't actually noticed before. Everything's quite fresh, everything's quite light about it. You're not going to find anything out of the ordinary in here. You're not. There's not going to be anything to write home about, I'm going to say, but still, later on we'll get back to what I'm sort of building up to. It's a light, sweet and sour, sharp, quite citrusy arrival. More fresh fruit. I think I said lemon and lime earlier on. I would add orange to that lemon and lime. It's a little malty, brown sugar. It's not thin. It's not overly coating either. I've had much thinner whiskies for much more money. It actually does pretty well for what it is. This comes in, you'll get this on sale sometimes for less, but it comes in generally 25 to 35 pounds. There's not a whole lot more to say about it than what I've already said regarding notes in the nose, notes in the palate. The finish, it's quite short, it's quite fleeting. That freshness is still around. It becomes there's a wee hint of the pepperiness. There's that, as I said about the freshness, it's the lemon and lime that I'm remembering. It's quite easy sipping. Not a lot going on. This is going to be short. But look, I'm not going to have water. There's no point thinning a thin thing down. As I said, it's not thin. I've had much thinner whiskies. It's a great, I think this is a prime example of a great starting place. If you are new to whiskey, you've probably been drinking cheap blends. You've been buying what you can afford. You've been spending, and I'm only keeping this in UK prices. Obviously, every country will have its own cheap bottom shelf, blended generally, whiskey. And it doesn't matter where it be from. It could be India, Japan, Ireland, America, Scotland. It doesn't matter where. Generally, most of these places will have something from their own country, bottom shelf, cheap. I'm not going to say gut rot, but it's just cheap blends, usually. So if this is a step up to single malt, you've decided you've decided to buy yourself a good single malt. And in your opinion, spending 25 to 35 pounds is a step up. Now, the thing to remember, those of us who are a bit further down that path, a bit further down that journey, 25 to 35 pounds is a huge step up from 12 to 16 pounds, which is what these blends have been selling for. Yet again, UK prices, I know they'll always change country to country. So a Glenfiddich 12-year-old is probably quite a big step up. It's still 40%. It's still, which will mean nothing to most beginners, coloured and chill filtered. But it's still that bit of a step up. So to me, it's not a bad place to go. That's somebody starting their journey, wanting to go somewhere. Remember, this is, to coin that phrase of Roy Aquavitti's, again, this is whiskey evangelism at its base almost. Once that ball starts rolling, a lot of us, I think you would agree, find it very hard to control it. And it's not a bad thing. We're talking about whiskey, we're talking about good whiskies. Glenfiddich are building they've some great whiskies. They've some very basic whiskies, this one being one of the latter there. But it's still a start to something better. I think that's where I'm aiming at. So look, it's not a bad place to start. Definitely not. It's actually better than I remember. And if you started somebody in a flight with this, even blind, I think they would probably be relatively surprised, because it's better than I remember. So let's just leave it and move on. Yes. So, and I'm sort of aiming this at the beginner again, sort of aiming it at somebody who's starting their journey. Most of the folk that are watching this that are a bit further down the journey probably don't really consider Glenfiddich 12 anymore. Doesn't really get thought about. So what would I suggest to then somebody who is starting? And Glenfiddich 12 was the first bottle of single malt that they bought to try and move up and along the world. Well, for the same money, now it needs to be sought out, maybe a wee bit more. You'll pick this up on most supermarket shelves. But for roughly the same money, and it skirts on the Speyside to Highland, although it considers itself a Highland, I believe. Although it skirts on the and I'm going to suggest this, a Knock 12-year-old, because yes, it's still bottled at 40%. Yes, I believe it's still chill filtered and there's still colour added. Although there's colour added to that, there's not an awful lot. But I would definitely suggest something. This is the same price. A Knock 12-year-old is the same price as Glenfiddich 12-year-old. It's not by any means high up in the knock range, but I just feel and taste an awful lot more quality in this than I do in this green bottle here. I don't really know how many different ways I can put it. It's same price, ish, same ABV, etc., but just feels and tastes so much better. So look, if you are starting this journey, you're on your way up, this is my suggestion. Look around, feel around, listen to other influencers, people who are, hate that word, but listen to people who are who have done all this before. And as much as these whiskies, you're looking, I know you're looking at price. Price is always the first thing you're looking at, generally, because you're not going to go out there and spend 70, 80 pounds on an independent bottling of something because it's bottled at 50%. It's non-chill filtered. There's no colour added. You're just starting your journey. That stuff doesn't mean anything to you. Feel your way at the start. But what you have to realise is there are some great whiskies out there at the same price as what you're seeing on the supermarket shelves. Not as those cheap blends. You're not going to get great whiskey for that price. But when you step into the realm of the Glenfiddich 12-year-old, then there are some great whiskies at the same price. Not saying the Glenfiddich 12-year-old's gut rot by any means. I did say earlier on that better than I remember, and I sort of broke it down as much as I could. It's simple. But this Enoch 12-year-old is just a step up. So take a look around, feel around. There are some great whiskies out there for not too much money. There you go. I didn't really know where I was going to go with this because I sort of feel like as if, I was saying it's not a step back or etc., but it's just very difficult then when your palate starts to get a taste for the good stuff. The basic stuff then, and that's what I'm going to call it because it's not bad. I'm not going to say it's bad stuff, I'm not going to say it's poor stuff, but the more basic whiskies then feel lacking. They feel like as if there's not enough going on. So that's what's happening here. There you go. That's as much as I'm going to say about that. Nothing wrong with Glenfiddich 12-year-old. Glad that I've actually reviewed it finally. And now I can put it to bed. So there you go. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are below. I'll be back next week again with something similar but different. Until then, here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.